So it's Friday, June 20th, 2025. I'm off today, which is weird. And I've always been wanting to write a book or make a YouTube series with my story, which is way more than an hour long. So I'm sitting on the couch with Dude, my handsome, loyal boy, and I figured what a better time to start from the beginning, I guess, because, well, I only know what I was told when I was born. So I was born April 16th, 1966, and I was born at home on 212th Street, right off Jamaica Avenue in Queens Village. And my grandma was there, and she delivered me. And my mom and my grandma told me that my grandma called my dad in 1966. We had one car and he was at work, and she said, "Billy, Gina's having the baby," and hung up. And my dad went to the hospital instead of coming home to get us. So my grandma delivered me, and she said I wasn't crying and I was sort of blue, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. So she gently unwrapped it and I peeped. And that's all I know. My parents were gonna name me Dawn Marie, and the day my grandma delivered me, she told my mom, please name her Mary Regina. So I got that name, and my dad never knew until he saw me for the first time. And everybody, not everybody, but most females are named Mary first in my family, so they called me Gina. My mom's name is Mary Regina, and my last daughter, Gia, is Mary Regina, and my daughter, Katrina, is Mary Katrina. So we all use our middle names. Anyway, my father volunteered to go off to the Vietnam War, and I don't know, over the years, when my dad came home, he said my mother was on her way out to a date. And my dad told me he, cheated on my mom with some of the North Vietnamese women. Who knows? So they separated rather young and early. They met at a bus stop, which was weird, but they fell in love. And you know what? I don't think they loved anybody else for their entire lives. Who knows? Anyway, I moved around a lot. Oh, there's Lottie. That's Katrina's cat. I mean, the rest is a blur. I was a crybaby. My mom raised me single. I'm an only child between my parents. And I do remember staying with old babysitters who drank coffee and smoked cigarettes and played cards. And my one solace was my mom would leave me with a hot bottle of tea, sweet tea. So, I just remember being unhappy, and we moved to Belrose, which was 89th and 247th. 247, 35, 89th Avenue was our address, and my grandma owned the house. It was an attached house, and the upstairs was rented to somebody else. Mr. Bloom lived there. He was an old man. I don't remember if he worked for the post office or what, but he came home late nights. And my bedroom door locked, and it led to the staircase and the front door. So every night when I heard him come home, I would be excited and open the door, and he would give me like a chocolate bar. But I have glimpses of, or memories of him molesting me. So I didn't know. I mean, I didn't tell anybody. I thought he loved me. I don't know. He was old and I was young, and he was my only friend, really. Anyway, he moved, and then we got some crazy lady up there with her baby, and my grandma and my mom didn't get along. I think we were paying like $400 a month in rent, and that was like 1971. Anyway, I think we lived there till I was like 10 or 11, and then my grandma and my mother had a huge falling out, and we had to move, and that was Queens. And I used my grandma's address because she lived in Belrose Village, which was Nassau. It was like literally across Jericho Turnpike. So Jamaica Avenue and Jericho Turnpike were split. And I played with the kids in Queens, but they were all Irish Catholic. Most went to Catholic schools and had large families. And my mom was the divorcee raising me, so everybody was like wary of me. I did have some friends though. We played Ring-a-Levio, Ring-a-Ding-a-Doorbell, I don't know. And then their moms would call them in, but I had no curfew really, so I just rode my bike around a lot by myself. Anyway, we moved across the street above some furniture store on the Nassau side. And that's where I found my first best friend, who lived across the street on the Queens side, and her name was Debbie. And she had a crazy mom, Myrna, who walked the streets in hospital gowns and hospital slippers and no coat, even in the winter. She wasn't there. So I told Debbie to come over and see my hamster, and she did, and I never let her go home. And her mom was okay with that. She lived at my house. And we started smoking pot and, drinking beer and hanging out with the 18-year-old boys. We'd go to the pop shop, and for like $1.99, we'd get a 6-pack of Schmitt's beer. And I remember the first time I got drunk, and literally my friends took me home and rang the doorbell because we lived upstairs in the apartments. And my mom brought me up, and I was blacked out, maybe throwing up, and I was 12, and I woke up in the morning, and I literally couldn't wait to do that again. So I'm pretty sure I've been an active alcoholic my entire life. I just didn't, see the red flags until I actually drank in 1978. But I sucked that bottle till I was 6. They were like, Gina, you can't go to first grade with the bottle. And my mother would give me lunch money. It was like $1 back then. I went to Caesar's candy store in Jamaica Avenue and bought all chocolate. I didn't even eat lunch. And so, I had all the red signs of being an alcoholic my entire life. I'm pretty sure I was born that way. Anyway, it didn't work out so well. Debbie had a boyfriend named Mark, and he was just abusive. He was older than her, and he would cut himself and hit her, and then they were doing drugs. And I had a serious boyfriend too. I met him in Queens at a concert in a church auditorium. His name was Tommy, and we talked on the phone all night, because back then you had the cords, the phones, and I took it to bed with me, and I never felt right. I always felt ugly and fat and geeky and gawky, and it was hard for me to imagine that anybody liked me, you know what I mean? So at 14, I guess I was the ugly duckling that turned into a beautiful swan, I'm not sure. But I remember literally turning pretty. I mean, I thought it was strange, but I liked myself, I liked my body. And I had a boyfriend, and I wasn't faithful. Who knows, maybe he wasn't faithful. It was always some drama, and we were drinking, telling our parents we were staying somewhere and then sleeping in some school yard with a blanket and a lot of beer, and we were just alcoholics, in love, I guess. I still love him today, but in a different way. He's married, and he has a wife and 2 boys, and he's actually the godfather of my son, Joe. And that's a whole nother story. Anyway, I started doing drugs. I was smoking angel dust and doing acid, a lot of mescaline, and drinking, and getting dressed on a Friday for hours to look pretty, go to Alley Pond Park and stay there all weekend. It was just weird. It was something like you can't tell your kids because they would never believe it. But I mean, we thought we were the shit, going to concerts and just, I can't believe I made it through school, which I graduated high school with good grades. I was always smart. I was at ground zero for crack. I remember Debbie doing crack, and I'm like, I'm never gonna do that. It's a long story. My mother had a boyfriend. We were smoking angel dust, and he threw a crack rock on top of it, and I thought I was Mario Andretti. Anyway, I was a crack addict that night. I joined the service because I thought, like, let me get away from this area and crack. And I did join the service, and I went to boot camp. I was in the banana platoon, which is a platoon they send you before boot camp because I couldn't do push-ups. And then I miraculously did push-ups. If I think about it now, God put his loving hands around my waist and pulled me up. And I did the exact amount that you had to do to go to boot camp. Whole story. Anyway, my MOS was 05 kilo, decoding Russian and German spy language on a naval aircraft carrier. I got like a 96 on the ASVAB. It was super high. And the FBI interrogates you, and I lied, and I never got in trouble, but they found out that I smoked weed or something in my early childhood. So they offered me a discharge or another MOS, and I took another MOS and became a 91 Papa, which is a medic in the U.S. Army, and I went to Texas. And in Texas, I found a girl named Gladys from Queens Village who knew how to go off base, buy crack, and smoke it in a TV antenna. This is 1986 or 87. And I did that, and I got busted, and she got busted. She got a dishonorable discharge, but not me. They put me in like army rehab and forced me to go to Pentecostal church, where I think I had my first spiritual experience because everybody prayed on me and held hands, and I dropped to the floor and like fainted. And I believed in God then. I never believed in God, but quickly I put that idea aside and continued acting out on my wicked ways. So I was doing really good. I gained like 30 pounds, but it was all muscle. My hair got long, and when I got off the plane to go home, my mother was living in Franklin Square, and now it's like 1988. I was smoking crack that night. I never stayed clean. I battled with that for a while, and then I was hitchhiking to East New York, Brooklyn, and I don't even know, midnight, and this guy, Rocco Totino, picked me up in one of those big black Cadillacs, and he was going to Cop Boy, which I know now today is heroin, and I was copping Girl, which is crack. And we parked the car, went our separate ways, and we got back in the car. I was smoking in the back seat, and he's like, hey, you want a matchbook of this? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And then I was like, wait a minute, I changed my mind, let me have some of that. And I did it, and then I was like, stop the car, pull over. I got out and I threw up, and when I settled back down, I said, oh my God, why did I even bother with that cocaine and crack? Heroin's like the ultimate miracle. It's what I had been searching for. But I spent the next 3 decades searching for that. Crazy. In any event, that's part 1. And I guess more to be revealed. Oh, I'm an alcoholic and I'm Gina.